Hello, everyone. Come right on in. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. Today's lecture is really interesting because a lot of us did not know that the second president of Mexico was a mixed race man. He was mixed with African, Native American or Native, and Spanish. His name was Vincent Guerrero. He was born in Tixtia near Acapulco, so he was born in Mexico. His mother's name was Maria Guadalupe, and she was a mixed race woman, and she was mixed with African and Spanish. And his father, his name was Rodriguez Saldana, and he was an Indian man. Now, Vincent came from a very affluent family. In fact, he worked for his father, and he was prosperous, and he had a mule-driven freight train business, which allowed Guerrero to travel all throughout Mexico. Now, there are no surviving pictures of Guerrero, but Jose Maria Morelos, his contemporary, described him as a brawn or tanned skinned man who had a slightly large nose with bright light colored eyes. So I think this is a portrait drawn from that description. Now, as Guerrero became a young man, he kind of grew disillusioned with the Spanish government. You see, Spain had colonized basically Mexico, and Mexico wanted to be free. So there was always these skirmishes going on, and they called them insurgents, the people who fought against the Spanish government. And Guerrero was coming down on the side of the insurgents. Now, his father didn't like that. He really believed that the Spanish government was great, and he was making a whole lot of money during the time that the Spanish government was in power. But they were enslaving people, and most of all, they were enslaving Africans. And that gave Guerrero a problem because he was partly African. So in December of 1870, he joined an insurgent army to fight against the Spanish colonial rule. In particular, again, he was fighting against the oppression and the enslavement. So he hooked up with this man named Jose Maria Morelos, and they began to fight the Spanish government. Now, of course, Spain had colonized Mexico, but Mexico wanted to be a free country. So this is the reason you have these insurgents. But during the fighting, they were really winning at first. Guerrero and Morelos, they were winning. However, Morelos was captured and unalived. So that left Guerrero on the run, and the Spaniards were right on his heel. He was using guerrilla tactics, in March of 1816, he became the commander in chief of the rebel troops. Now, in 1820, he joined up with a man named Augustine, and they put together a plan. And they kind of wanted four or five things. One was independence. They also wanted a constitutional monarchy. They wanted to keep the Catholic Church in place. They wanted to also to stop the caste system. Steen, he wasn't too tripping about the slavery stuff, but Guerrero was, and he said that had to be a part of it. So there needed to be equal rights for Africans and all people, no matter their origin. And so they were victorious, and they marched through the city of Mexico on September the 27th, 1821. Now, the thing about it was, Augustine was proclaimed the Emperor of Mexico. But Guerrero did not like that. He wanted to be the emperor of Mexico. So he retreated to southern Mexico to raise up an army so that now he can fight Augustine, who he had just been allied with. So it seems like to me Guerrero was in that war mode all the time, and he had a vision for the country, and no matter what, he was going to try to do it. So he raised up an army and he went to fight against Augustine, but they lost. But in 1823, the government collapsed. So the people and the Congress, they wanted Guerrero, but they had to have an election. But he lost to a man named Manuel Gomez Pedreza. And of course, Guerrero was mad again about that. So just like when he didn't like it when Augustine won, so he was ready to go to war again, marching his troops right down to the capital. Now, Pedraza, he was not about that life. So he resigned and he moved to England. He said, "You could have it all." And Guerrero was proclaimed the second president of Mexico. Now, he became president on April the 1st, 1829. And the people loved him because he was mixed race. They felt like he really represented them. He wanted freedom. But the people that that he had ousted, and believe you me, he had hurt a lot of people along the way. They did not like him. And so unbelievably, his vice president turned against him. Now, his friend was a ship captain. He told him, "Hey, come on over. Let's eat on my boat." And they paid him 50 pesos. So he lured him to his boat. And while he was getting ready to eat his meal, they arrested him. This was January 14th, 1831. So only 2 years after he became president, he was overthrown. Moreover, they unalived him with the Pow Pow Squad on February the 14th, 1831. And Guerrero was no more. Can you imagine being the president one day and only 2.5 years later you're in front of a firing squad? Some asked, why was he pow-powed instead of just exiled like other leaders had been exiled? A historian had an answer for that. Allegedly, Jan Bazant believed that he was unalived instead because he was of mixed race heritage. And the people of the Spaniards, Portuguese, and even the Hispanics was not going to tolerate a mixed man as their leader. And so that is why it's believed that he was executed in such a horrendous manner. Guerrero was survived by his wife, Guadalupe. He was known as one of Mexico's greatest men of color. The state of Guerrero is named after him, and he also has several cities named after him. Oddly enough, Guerrero was the one and only black man who's ever been the president of Mexico. So that kind of leads some kind of credence to her story that says that they were not going to tolerate a mixed race man. So that kind of gives us a little history about Mexico, about a black man being a head of state there, and how he met his end. Had you ever heard of Mr. Guerrero? I want to thank you all for joining me, taking some time out of your day to learn a little bit more about our royal and elite Black history. I'm Lady TrenettWilson. I've been your lecturer and social historian. Now, don't forget to please like, share, and subscribe and learn about more Black history by clicking on a link below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on another great episode.